Felt like I had nothing to lose then.
That is such a strong answer, and it comes from like such a place of abundance.
90% of it is a quick money grab. That's really good.
Nothing fuels me like spite, by the way. Like nothing. This episode of Networth and Chill is brought to you by Marshalls. I love sharing new tips on how to make the most of your money. And one of the biggest misconceptions about looking good is that you have to spend a lot. And I'll be real with you, I want those high quality items that'll last, but I'm also on the hunt for the best deal. How can I dress in brand name on-trend pieces without maxing out my credit cards? My go-to place to do that is Marshalls, where I know I can get the brands I love at 20 to 60% off retail prices. Visit a store or head to marshalls.com to see what good stuff you can find today. What's up, rich friends? Welcome to another episode of Networth and Chill. I'm your host, Vivian Tu, aka your rich BFF and your favorite Wall Street girly. Today, I'm throwing it back to a milestone moment that a lot of us can relate to, especially if you grew up with immigrant parents. The day my Chinese mom finally let me wear a teeny tiny bit of makeup. It was a huge deal. I will never forget my first little e.l.f. lip gloss and mascara that I scored on sale. I was in middle school, but man, did it make me feel grown up. I was sexy-licious with this lip gloss and mascara. And these days, the beauty industry is an absolute powerhouse. In 2022, the industry was valued at $430 billion with a B dollars, and it's projected to be worth $580 billion by 2027. And with new beauty brands popping up left, right, and center, the industry's more competitive and diverse than ever. We're seeing products that cater to every skin tone and brands that are deeply rooted in their founders' identities and visions. And for me, I recently had quite a few big events, and I have a go-to makeup artist. Her name is Clarissa Luna. Please check her out. And she introduced me to a line of products that I had never heard of before that I am now deeply and absolutely obsessed with. If you are watching the podcast and not just listening, this lip color is in fact from this company. So what better way to dive into today's episode on beauty and diversity than by exploring this booming industry with someone who's working to shape its future and make products that I love and use. Everyone, please welcome my personal friend and founder and CEO of the beauty brand Live Tinted, Deepica Mutyala.
Hi!
Thank you so much for being here, you guys. If we're being honest, Deepica rolled in and was like, I'm so hungover, so this is going to be an unhinged episode.
It's going to be so unhinged.
But it's going to be so, so good.
Oh,
and
boy.
I'm really excited to talk all things beauty. But before we get into that, I have a fun little icebreaker.
Okay.
What is the first cosmetic product that you ever saved up and bought as like a little kid?
It was Bath & Body Works lip gloss. And that
Whoa!
it was saving up. It was under $20, but that was a big deal as a kid, you know? My first luxury lipstick was YSL Rouge Pour Couture, but I didn't pay for it. I was working at L'Oreal as an intern, and they gave it to me, and I was like, I made it.
You're like, I'm rich.
I'm rich, yeah. Well, design or anything was not a part of my childhood, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And can you talk a little bit about like your childhood? Like, did you grow up with a lot of money? Was beauty a huge thing? Like, what was that like?
I felt like I grew up with a lot of money because my dad never let me feel like we didn't. But, you know, I come from a family of doctors, but my dad wasn't a doctor.
That's very Indian.
Oh, so Indian. I mean, and then he wanted me to be a doctor.
Yeah.
My sister did end up becoming a doctor. She married a doctor.
Check. She did it for you.
Thank you, Monica, for doing it for me. They're just overjoyed with that situation and just on me about at least marry a doctor. But anyways, whole other combo. But my childhood was the best because my dad, I watched a really hardworking man and an entrepreneurial woman raise me, and I honestly think it's the reason I'm a hardworking entrepreneur today. But yeah, I think, you know, it's so funny. The other day I was thinking about how my dad drove a Camry. It was like a broke down Camry. Also very Indian.
We also had a Camry.
Okay.
So
very Asian.
Very
then.
Asian.
Okay.
Very immigrant.
Okay. Very immigrant. Yeah. But he got me a BMW when I was 16, and we had no business.
What?
Like, it didn't make financial sense for us to be doing that.
Yeah.
It was a used 3 Series, but he said he saw the look in my eyes and he literally couldn't say no. And that man worked overtime after overtime. I mean, I have a pit in my stomach just talking about it. That weight of
that guilt
of owing him still weighs on me to this day. I tried to buy him a Tesla. Like, I thought he was going to be so excited. He was like, Absolutely not. Very immigrant dad pride. He was like, no, I should be getting my daughter things, not the other way around. It was annoying. But I think that kind of childhood of seeing someone give you so much. Yeah, so I had no idea that we weren't like, Dr. Rich, but also we weren't, on the streets. Going out to eat was Subway or Olive Garden.
Right.
That was a big deal for us.
Yeah. So. And you mentioned being raised by a hardworking man and an entrepreneurial woman.
Mm-hmm.
What did your mom do?
My mom has started multiple businesses. She had a deli called Padma's Eatery in downtown Houston.
Wait, that's so cute.
Yeah.
I love that.
And I think back to it now, it's like, that's so wild. Like, brown women doing that was not a thing.
No.
And it failed. It didn't work. But then she did another business, and then she got into real estate. And I feel like my mom really struck like she became someone who brokered land in India for people here who wanted to buy land in India. And
that's genius.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like I think it really changed. Like my dad created the base for us.
Yeah.
And my mom took that money and invested it properly.
Oh,
She's a badass.
We love a woman who has her money on her mind.
Yeah. And she was also a networking queen. Like she was that person who connected all the brown people in Houston together. Yeah. She was like the president of this Indian organization. Like she was that kind of a woman. And it's like growing up, I was Padmasree's daughter. So it's cool because now she's like Deepica's mom.
Yeah.
I think it makes her like really, really proud.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so, I'm imagining you in your childhood home. Clearly, your parents did not want this life for you.
No.
But talk to me. I'm assuming you were a pretty decent student. You go to college, then what? You're like, what was your first job?
Well, so when I was 16, I told my parents I wanted to start a beauty brand.
Yeah.
I was like walking down the aisles, never saw myself represented, and I was like, I'm going to change this one day. And they were like, that's cute, go study for the SATs.
Yeah.
That's what they would say. And they wouldn't let me get a job. They wanted me to study. I know that I recognize that as a huge privilege. But at the time, I wanted to. Like, I wanted to go work at Abercrombie and Fitch. Because I also wanted the validation of Abercrombie and Fitch, which is a whole other thing.
You wanted to be hot. That's
I wanted to be hot. And I remember telling them that they didn't get it, but everything I did was to build this brand. So I went to college and majored in marketing at University of Texas.
Wait, so you specifically knew going in that you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah. Not just an entrepreneur, that I wanted to create a makeup brand.
Yeah.
I used to doodle Deep Beauty as a kid, or Deep Pearl was going to be the name because my last name means pearl. This is what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So every decision was to lead up to building this brand. I didn't plan the viral video and becoming an influencer in between because who does that? But everything else, my first job was at L'Oreal. Then I was at Limited Brands, went to early employee at Birchbox. While I was there, the influencer thing was popping off.
Yep.
Made a YouTube video, it went viral, became a beauty influencer, and then started a beauty brand. It's kind of crazy because everyone says to me, the question, what would you tell your 16-year-old self? I would tell her she was right, because I knew at that age that I should be doing exactly this, and it didn't make sense to anybody. Mm-hmm. And now, I don't know, I just feel like there were so many aunties and uncles who would feel bad for my parents because I was just doing this thing on YouTube.
Yeah.
And it was like, what is she doing with her life?
Yeah.
I quit my job to go do that.
Yeah.
And now I feel like they asked me to talk to their daughters to give them advice and stuff.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Can I tell you, that's so funny because I'm not going to name names, but I have eyes and ears everywhere, my friends. At my wedding, in one of the shuttles taking people back to the meeting points in the hotels at our hotel blocks.
Yeah.
I had a younger girlfriend. She's my age. She's another creator. And there was a set of parents that were guests of my parents. And they were just Vivian's got a great career, but I just really don't understand why she quit her job on Wall Street. And I was like, are you kidding?
LOL. God.
You're at my wedding right now. My wedding that is paid for. They should see your
bank account.
Yeah, the wedding that is paid for by my internet career.
Yep.
And so I just laughed you said that. It's so funny.
They don't get it, and I don't think they ever will. But honestly, I think my bigger issue is how much it's bred into me, and I still have insecurities of my own, and I don't know if it'll ever feel like enough because I grew up in a world where it never felt like enough. Mm-hmm. It's so unhealthy, and I'm trying to honestly unlearn that relationship with money and this desire for more. I get why they had to feel that way. It was this this idea of like making it in America and respect in America, it all went back to like money in their mind. And I think for me, I like nice things.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to worry about money, but I think the amount that they felt the pressure to have it, I really want to release. I want to release that feeling because it'll never be enough. Mm-hmm. Like, how many founders do we know that build companies, exit it, and then do it again?
Yeah.
And then again.
Because they're not chasing
drug.
the money. They're chasing, I don't know if it's like the high, the excitement, the challenge.
All of it, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds boring to be retired by 40, right?
Very.
Like, what would you, just sit around?
Yeah.
That's not going to be
Like,
either of
that's
us.
sick for 3 months, but then you're like, oh.
Now what?
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
I don't know if I'll ever retire. And I don't know if you will either.
I don't think I will. There's always going to just be a different version of it, you know? Mm-hmm. And I do think about it because everyone's always like, oh, what's the end game with Live Tinted? And for me, it's like, it will be a global beauty brand. And whatever way gets it there to be the strongest possible outcome, then I'll do it, whether that is an exit or a partnership or strategic alliance of some kind, then I'm down. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that means... I don't know. I can't imagine not wanting to be a part of it.
Yeah.
I love it. This is literally my little Indian girl, 16-year-old dream from living in Texas coming to life. And it's just so cool that you like try a product because a makeup artist said it and now you use the products. Like, how cool is that? We didn't have brands made by us for us growing up.
Absolutely not.
At all.
And I do want to talk about your little Indian girl beauty brand because it's not so little anymore. It's actually become an incredibly big, booming business. It's got a large internet following, cult users. But how did that happen? You didn't just sit down one day and have this brand. Like, at one point, I'm assuming you sat at a table, you were looking at a whiteboard, and you were like, okay, what now? How does that happen?
Because it was always my dream. It wasn't a if, it was a when.
Yeah.
So when I was beauty influencer and when I was working at all these companies, it was all, to me, my business school. I was like teaching myself, building the contacts to be able to do all these things. When I was at Birchbox, I did in-house product development for them. So I had relationships with labs. And then when I became a beauty influencer, I feel like when I lived in New York, I just used every ounce of that time to network. Mm-hmm. I was that person going up to random strangers. Like I went up to Jessica Alba at a hotel lobby and just asked her. Basically, after that, she just became a really great advisor and friend and person in my life. But I had these like insane Delulu
What do you
confidence.
say to Jessica Alba to be like, love me?
I said the exact name of the product.
Yeah.
I said, I'm obsessed with this product, but I think it could be this, this, this. And I do the Today Show beauty segments regularly. I said a 30-second soundbite that made her say, sit down. I want to get to know you. And I always approach it with like how I can be resourceful and helpful to them. And it's like, okay, well, how can you actually be resourceful to Jessica Alba? I was like, okay, well, she has a beauty brand. I do TV segments for beauty segments. And I don't know. I just think like tying those two things together, she was like, have a drink. And I don't know. Again, I had a delusional level of confidence. It feels like it's still there, but not the same way it was then. It felt like I had nothing to lose then, you know?
Yeah.
Now the internet has kind of made me more fearful of the things I say. I feel like I guard myself more now because it's cancel culture so scary.
I think that's so unfortunate.
I admire you so much because I can tell you're so not scared of the internet. Like, you think, I love reading your comments when you get hater comments.
Yeah.
You're just like, LOL, ha, okay. I admire it so much. I'm not there. But I think a piece of the reason I'm not there is because I have 35 employees that I feel like depend on me and investors. And I feel like if I get canceled, does Live Tinted get canceled? And so I feel like I keep it a little more PC, but I want to be able to be myself, which is why doing podcasts like this are fun with your friends because, I don't know, you can talk about how you're hungover. But anyways, back to the brand that when I was doing the beauty influencer thing, I got approached by a ton of companies to create products with them because I had gone viral for using a red lipstick under my eyes to mask dark circles. 10 million views later, people were like, we need to create a red lipstick for under the eyes to mask dark circles. And a bunch of brands were making color correctors and they wanted me to be the face of it. But I just knew that I needed to not do that. And, I partnered with them to like promote one here and there, but I wasn't trying to have 10% of a company to be the face. I wanted to be the owner of the company. And somebody else get 10% for investing in me.
Yeah.
So I remember I got approached by a man who said he wanted to create the brand and literally offered me that kind of a proposal. And that's when I knew I just had to go do it or somebody else was going to do it and it wasn't going to be someone who looked like me.
Yeah.
And I was just sick of that narrative that just kept happening. That's all we saw growing up. The reason there weren't products made for us growing up is because it's a bunch of people who didn't look like us making the products.
Yeah.
And so I think so much of Live Tinted and our intention is all about thinking about concerns that are unique to people of color and addressing those, but they work for everybody. I need everyone to hear that. Just because something is created by a woman of color doesn't mean the products only work for women of color. At least not all the time. I don't know which camera to look at, but that was important that was important for me to say. So anyways, yeah, I think I started Live Tinted as a community platform and I kind of used that audience as a way to market research what product I should launch first. And turns out people still wanted that color corrector. So we started with the Hue Stick. It's won Allure Best of Beauty 3 times. We're now in almost every Ulta door. 6 feet of space in some of the doors next to NARS and Charlotte Tilbury. It's crazy, but I'm simplifying it. It was obviously hard as hell, and it still is.
Yeah. Can I tell you something I found super unique to your brand that is one of my favorite products?
What?
Your concealers.
Yeah.
Clarissa uses shade 16 and 17, and she blends them.
Yeah.
And something that I noticed was that I was shade 16 to 17 because I'm normally shade like 2 or 3 because the shades always go from fairest to darkest. You flipped it around. So I'm actually almost at the end of where the color spectrum goes for
like,
some of
why
your
can't the
products.
deepest shade be number 1?
Yeah.
It's really silly when you think about it. And actually, I remember talking to the retailer and they were like, oh, well, that's not intuitive because it goes this way and things like that. They were very supportive of it.
Yeah.
But I mean, why did we always have to be at the end of the spectrum?
Yeah.
I was sick of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, our deepest shade is shade 1. And it's so funny. I think we're the only brand in the history of brands that have been asked to expand our lighter shades. Because we always prioritize the deeper shades. So I don't know. I'm really proud of that though.
Yeah. And it's something that I noticed as like truly not even just like a marketing thing, but like part of the ethos of the company.
Yeah.
Because I've never been shade 16, 17.
Yeah.
And I wonder how the girl who's normally shade 16, 17 at every other brand feels being shade 2 or 3 in yours.
I hope great. That's the whole point of it. It's funny, for our concealer campaign, it was the first time we actually had a Caucasian model. And it again, says no brand ever, right? It was like the opposite.
Yeah.
But again, like I said, it's important that everyone knows that we've created a brand that works for everybody, but it's just finally inclusive of us.
Yeah.
So yeah.
We have been connected because I am somehow deeply embedded in the New York City Desi community.
You really are.
It's so
How
funny.
have you not found me a husband yet?
I'm working on it, guys.
Great.
But what I think is so amazing is that, I don't know about you, but when I was growing up as a little Asian kid, I was not at all proud to be a little Asian kid because the kids at school would pull their eyes up at me or call me Ching Chong or whatever. And I'm sure growing up, it wasn't necessarily something that was easy because as kids, we all just want to fit in.
Totally.
But how have you been able to incorporate your South Asian heritage into Live Tinted and everything that you do?
It's in every decision I make, and it's not even obvious to me that I do it, but everything down to the marigold packaging and color of the brand, the copper detailing, the way we've named shades. Like I remember one of our Hue Stick shades, we called it Free, and because it was like this beautiful berry color, and I wanted people to feel free to wear bright, bold, fabulous colors on deeper skin tones. And we celebrated with the Holy Party that was like beautiful berry powders being thrown everywhere. And we threw at the Volley Party for one year. It was like the first time you've ever seen a room of like the most powerful South Asian women entertainment together.
Yeah.
I think every decision I make, I do it. But again, like what I want is this brand to really be clear that it works for everybody. So I always want it to be like subtle ways that I know in 15 years from now, when everyone of all different skin tones is wearing Live Tinted, I know that I did little things to incorporate my culture. Like marigolds are a flower that are used in Indian culture a lot, but it's also used in Mexican culture a lot. And I wanted that cross-cultural connection to come through with the brand. But like the thoughtfulness of every detail, Copper, again, it's like people use gold and silver, but what about that in-between metal? I felt like I've always lived in the in-between my whole life. Like those subtle things, they have a brushed finish to it. I wanted it to feel imperfectly perfect because that's how I felt in the beauty industry growing up. It's all these little details that I think about.
I love the details. And I kind of want to touch on like a little bit of a prickly topic.
Oh boy.
I feel like everybody and their mother is launching a beauty brand right now.
Totally.
And some of it just feels so disingenuous.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, it's one more thing to do to like grab at some money.
Yeah.
As a beauty founder who does put so much thought into everything that you do, what's your POV on that?
My POV is that I think there's some people out there that are winning and doing it, and it actually makes me happy. Like, I'll give you an example. I think Rare Beauty has done it really well. Up front, they raised $13 million. They had a rock star team in place. They brought in Scott Friedman from NYX. They brought in the whole NYX team to run the company. They got an amazing face for the brand. There's a purpose behind it with the mental health.
Yeah.
That was really smart and strategically done,
Yeah.
and I think that's why they're winning and killing it. Then there's plenty out there that actually like still don't exist or they like fade away in a little bit. And I genuinely think we're just going to see more and more of that happen.
Yeah.
And the ones that are lasting and staying deserve to be there because they figured it out. And I have to believe that consumers are getting smarter and smarter and they want to support brands and they do their homework and see that like people like Live Tinted are doing all the work to make sure that these products are something people are proud to have in their bag. So yeah, did it used to annoy me? Yes. But I think the universe is taking care of that. It's just happening one by one, man. Like they're just fading away. Even the big influencer ones, they're being like taken out of Sephora. And I know the behind the scenes of like who's running the brands and stuff. And you can just tell that, like you said, 90% of it is a quick money grab.
Yeah.
And then they move on. It's fine. I'm going to still be here.
Yeah. Ooh, that is an incredibly like secure, I don't even like this phrase, but like very demure, very mindful. Like that is such a strong answer. And it comes from like such a place of abundance.
This is new. I'm not going to pretend like I've always been this secure and confident, but I won't lose. There's no way. This has been my dream since I was a 16-year-old kid. I've worked my entire career to get here. I have too many smart people that believe in me. I have too much of a smart team. I have great investors behind me. My very first $500K that I raised is all my founder friends who I said, I want to give you the opportunity to invest in me because you've been a great advice system for me. And so I have a bunch of people that I can go to for advice that gave checks to my business. I'm not going to lose.
Yeah.
It might not be at the speed that I thought it was. Like I remember watching the Glossiers of the world and in 5 years getting $1 billion valuation. And that was like really hard for me.
Yeah.
Like,
Because you do the comparison game.
it was really hard. And then I was like, why aren't I there yet? Why aren't I there yet? But, everyone has their own journey. And I think they're going to I'm told, a lot of these companies are trying to exit now. There's a lot of beauty brands trying to exit right now. And a lot of them are having issues doing it. And I think I'm excited that my journey is just a little slower in my way, and I think I'm going to come out to be a winner. I have to believe that, right?
Yeah.
I have to.
We had another founder on of Sarah Nguyen of Nguyen Coffee Supply.
Nice.
And she was like, if founders actually knew how hard everything was and how horrible it is sometimes to be a founder, no one would do it.
Yeah, it's the worst. But I wouldn't do anything else.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, 16-year-old you made that decision for you.
Truly, yeah. My therapist says I'm a masochist. She's like, you just like enjoy this pain or something? Because why are you doing this again and again? I don't know. I've had so many people tell me this is corny, but I genuinely feel like this is my purpose on this earth. I genuinely feel like I'm meant to make little girls feel good about themselves and adults feel like they can go do any career that they want to do. And so this brand does feel like it's bigger than myself and we have to win. I think that's another thing. Now I'm realizing it as I'm saying it out loud. I feel like I have to win because there's a lot of people believing in me and writing on me to win. I feel like if I don't win, then the next investor isn't going to invest in a South Asian girl. I like hold that weight on my shoulders because when I went to fundraise, so much of the conversation was around, oh, well, how are you different from Fenty? And it's like, would you say that to Laura Mercier and Bobbi Brown?
No.
Would you say to Patrick Ta Makeup by Mario? It's just so fascinating to me that people believe that there can only be one brand that is prioritizing people of color. Again, Fenty and Live Tinted have products for everybody. But that's just the way that these investors think. They have are you the Glossier of this? Or are you the Warby Parker of this? It's just how it works. And so I know that South Asian girls will have a easier time raising if they see a success story by a South Asian woman who built something. So I feel like I have to win.
Your wins are our community's wins.
Yeah, I do feel that way. Because I feel the same way when I see anyone else win, you know?
Yeah.
It makes me feel like, oh my God, this is just going to make it that much easier for me.
Yeah. Oh, so you've talked about your investors. I want to get into some of the financial nitty gritties.
Of course you do.
Of course, please. You thought you thought you were getting an invite. We weren't going to talk numbers. So, you've wanted to start Live Tinted since you were 16. Can I ask, how much did you start your company with?
We started with $500K. We raised a friends and family round.
Okay.
I did have some institutional investors, but they put in small checks.
Got you.
I would go to them and they would say, hey, you're not there yet, but let's do from our scout fund this amount. But it was great because then when we started to have momentum, they were down to put in more.
And I have a little note. In this $500K, you're talking about getting money from powerhouses like Bobby Brown.
Yeah.
You're getting money from Haley Barna, the Birchbox co-founder, Jamie Schmidt, the founder of Schmidt Deodorant. So these are some heavy hitting names.
Yeah, they're badass women. I feel like that was really important to me too, because again, so much of this was like an emotional journey too. So being able to call them and say, I hate life, or I'm depressed, or what do I do for this? And I think that it was smart money to me. That's what I wanted, smart money. But we started with $500K, and we started as a community platform. What that meant was an Instagram page with a weekly newsletter, and that costs money. It doesn't make money.
No, not even a little bit.
So this idea of a community platform was so exciting to me, bringing people together around this shared idea of not feeling seen in the beauty industry. It wasn't making money. So we had to create a product. We polled the audience. They told us what they wanted. We created our first product. So that $500K got us to our MVP product into market. And we hit our revenue target that we wanted for the month in the first week. That was really cool. We only had one product, 3 SKUs. I think it was I honestly don't remember the number, but I think it was $200K or something, which was a really exciting thing for a business. I had no clue if we were going to make money,
Yeah.
We did our first mill in the first year. I've never shared this stuff, but I always feel like people gatekeep this information too much.
Yeah.
Why do you think people do that? Why is it so secretive?
I think because there is a level of concern that if you do share this information, it bites you on both ends. So there are going to be people who then come out and say, oh, look at this person who's trying to raise more money, but they're already doing so well. They don't need it. This person's greedy. And then on the other end, it's oh, this person wants to raise all this money, but look, their numbers are actually really shitty.
You can't win.
So you literally cannot win.
Yeah.
And I think that it bothers me so much because if we received financial transparency the way that we attempt to demand it, we would get more of it.
100%.
When I talk about how much I make, when I tell people candidly what I make as a creator, they're like, well then, why are you taking on more brand deals? You're already making such a large amount. And it's well, you recognize that I get this career for as long as an NFL player gets theirs. I am not a 40-year accountant. I don't think I'm going to be relevant for 40 years.
I do.
Well, that's because you love me.
Yeah, I do.
But you know what I mean? Creators don't get a traditional career path.
Yeah.
It can go away at any moment. So I need to bale hay while the sun shines. And then when it doesn't, I'm hoping that money that I've made will tide me over and make investments. I don't sit here and buy myself a lime green Lambo. I'm not wasting that money.
Totally.
It's for future Viv.
Yeah. And also, again, this goes back to my whole childhood stuff. I hate that. I want to be proud of it. And I feel like the internet takes away a little bit of that joy of the being proud of these numbers.
And when women that look like us, or just women, period,
Yeah.
are proud of their accomplishments, you're a braggart.
Yeah. Which is so gross and so icky. But I am proud of the numbers. I'm proud that we're an 8-figure business now. But again, it's my journey. I'm growing year over year. It's winning, it's growing, it's going at my pace, and I think means it's gonna last.
Hey, rich friends, you know I love to talk about the habits of rich people, and one thing they all have in common is that they find ways to keep their money. That's something my partners at Marshalls can help you with. Because rich people look the part. They're wearing high quality brand name clothes, But what you might not realize is that they didn't pay full price. That's how they're staying rich. And while you're on your way to getting rich, you can get the same good stuff without breaking the bank by shopping at Marshalls. Head to your local Marshalls or visit marshalls.com to shop their ever-changing selection of high-quality, on-trend merchandise.
Is that your highest point, being an 8-figure business? Like, what is like your biggest pride and joy?
Ooh.
Or like your highest moment?
It's Mattel and Barbie created a South Asian CEO Barbie doll after me.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, it was beautiful.
I know people would expect it to be actually like a live tinted stat, but that Barbie existing and holding a little baby hue stick and wearing like a power suit and little Indian jewelry, and it was a great marketing moment for live tinted, but it was a really cool personal moment for me. Like, first of all, being a Barbie is pretty freaking cool.
Yeah.
But more so thinking about like, did you ever have Barbies that looked like you growing up?
Hell no.
How cool
I didn't
is
even
that?
have the brunette one. I only had the blonde ones because the
Same.
stores wouldn't like sell ones that look like us.
Yeah. And that's what I dyed my hair blonde. I got blue contacts. Like, I wanted to look like the
Shut
Barbie.
fuck up. No, you did not.
Yeah. There's pictures of me with blonde streaks, blue old contacts. And like, I avoided the sun my whole life. I always wanted to be fair skinned. My mom had bleach cream on our counter. I mean, this brand is deep rooted to me.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to be, like you said, all those things that happened to you in high school. I so badly wanted to be one of those cool girls.
Yeah.
I transformed my entire self to look like them.
Yeah.
So having a Barbie then that looked like me, not them, it was like so empowering to me that I don't know if like a dollar amount felt that same way. And quite honestly, it goes back to like, no dollar amount ever feels like enough. I feel like we have to keep growing and going.
Yes.
So yes, like becoming a 10-figure business made me feel, 10-figure business, an 8-figure business made me feel legit, I guess. There's a lot to still do.
Yeah.
But now I feel like I have like a team with me doing it versus me just trying to figure it all out, which is nice.
And
what was your moment like that?
My high moment? That's a good one. Okay. So when I was a trader, I would trade stocks that would trade on the New York Stock Exchange, the NASDAQ, like all of these different exchanges. And I was actually invited to speak at the NASDAQ, and they had the NASDAQ would like to welcome your rich BFF, and it was a huge billboard on top of the NASDAQ Center in Times Square and the market site. And we had like a professional photographer come out, and like I remember being styled in like these shoes were so beautiful. They were the most painful things I've ever put on my feet. Like,
aren't they always?
They were like 5 inches high, no arch support, no support like anywhere. And I remember taking this photo and feeling like, I can't wait until my shithead boss, who told me that I was too girly to work on Wall Street, who didn't like how my nails click-clacked on the keyboard, didn't like that I was too Asian. I hope he walks by this on his way to the train.
Snaps.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's good. That's really good.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Nothing fuels me like spite, by the way. Like nothing.
This is why I love you. This is why everyone loves her. She's so freaking real. My moment was like on our launch day. I actually went to Bobbi Brown's office on our launch day, and she's like, "What are you doing here on your launch day?" I was like, "I want you to invest in my company." She said, "No one's ever asked her that." And I was like, "This is literally me asking." So then that's how that ended up happening.
Wow.
And on that same day, we had a billboard in Times Square of my face. It was like a MasterCard campaign that I had that said, Deepica Mutyala, founder and CEO of Live Tinted. And there was a New York Times one-pager of my sketch of my face, a billboard in Times Square, and that was all on our launch day. So we were getting sales. I got Bobbi Brown as an investor. The New York Times had a picture of me, and there's a billboard in Times Square of me. And that was
that wasn't the same day as the Time cover.
Separate,
okay.
But that was...
I'm clocking your wins.
These wins, but okay, again, I think that's what stresses me out so much about social media too, is it sounds so exciting and high, and that was obviously a really great day. The amount of times I've cried from sadness,
of course,
over tears of happiness, there's way more of that. way, way, way more of that. And I just think it's so important people realize that. Like you said, the coffee founder said, I think we've glamorized the idea of being a founder.
Girl boss.
Girl boss is so cute and it's so fun. And I think I watched that era of like all those women on the covers of magazines raising $70 million. I felt like I was supposed to raise all this capital. Now that I understand what raising money means and how much I owe people their return before I get a dime, I would not advise people necessarily to go raise capital. Like, I think there's a lot of ways to build businesses. Like, at this point, I have to build this to becoming a massive business because I literally owe millions of dollars to my investors.
Yeah.
But I think it's really cool that somebody out there is like, I'm going to grow this my way, make it a few $1 million business, take home as much as they want because they own 100% of it, and live life that way. Mm-hmm. I don't think it has to be done one way or another, but because my brand to me is important from an impact and purpose standpoint. Like, it's important to me that a girl in India sees a billboard with a deeper skinned girl wearing shade 1 of our concealer.
Yeah.
That's why we have to be a massive brand. It's just too important.
Mm. And speaking of building a massive brand, we don't get there without our friends.
We don't.
We have a lot of mutual friends,
We do.
a lot of other beauty founders. And you posted a really funny screenshot the other day with one of our friends, Priscilla.
Love her.
She was very literally pushing out a child.
Literally.
Like in the hospital giving live birth and simultaneously having conversations about building a business.
Yeah.
I think something that I've struggled with for a really long time, because when I worked on Wall Street, there was only allowed to be like one smart, cool girl who was hired. And that is how I've kind of felt about a lot of things throughout my life. Is like there was one seat. I needed to do whatever it took to be in that seat.
Yeah.
How are you able to balance your friendships versus knowing that some of these other founders create products that are competitors to yours? And in fact, some of your investors, like Bobbi Brown, has Jones Road, obviously has a huge stake in her former company, Bobbi Brown, her namesake company. Like, how do you balance that?
I think that that's the cool part about the beauty industry is people can have multiple lipsticks.
Yeah.
They have a lot of serums, and so I think because of that, it's so much more beneficial for all of us to share information with each other than not. And honestly, specifically that chat with Priscilla and Amy Lou from Tower 28, I feel like it's also like this camaraderie we have that's like, we will never scoop employees from each other.
Is that like part of like the contract?
We talked about it. Yeah, we've talked about it. They have told me if like somebody has told applied for a job or something like that.
Oh,
that's
really?
like it's just, we have that sort of loyalty to each other because like 3 Asian women in beauty, I mean, this is a whole new world.
Yeah.
A very dazzling place. So like I feel like we have to support each other. And again, no one is going to understand the journey better than somebody else going through the journey.
Yeah.
Those 2 women, God, the amount we message each other, and we're all at different levels and stages, right, of our businesses. And I think the idea of one of them winning just brings me the most amount of joy, genuinely. And especially Amy and I, right? We both have concealers, we both have powders, we're both makeup brands. So what? People will buy both.
Yeah. People will buy both.
Yeah.
I think about like my bathroom and I'm like, wow, this looks like a mess. Yeah. Like I've tried every product. I want to test these new fun things.
I mean, what did you, $440 billion business? Like, there's room for a couple of
580
us.
by 2027. It's crazy. Yeah. People are buying a lot of things.
Yeah.
With your investors, I know you said you wanted to take on smart money. Something that you touched upon that I feel like a lot of founders gloss over is getting on that VC treadmill and then feeling like you owe blood debt to those investors.
I care so much about making everyone their return.
Yeah.
It keeps me up at night. I work really hard because of it. I want the customers to feel like every product genuinely has a story, because it does. And I want people to feel that in a world of beauty where people are throwing products at you left and right.
Yeah.
There's a story and a purpose to ours that's bigger than the product.
Yeah. You said that to me, by the way. What I would not give to eventually be able to tell Clarissa that her sweat equity was worth it and that I could give her a fat check for having supported us all this time.
It's still my dream. I can't wait. I think about how much she believed in me and the brand before anyone. The fact that she uses my products on you and now you know the brand and now I'm sitting here and the trickle effect of all of it. Everyone who helped us in the early days deserves it's another reason I want us to win. I want all the people who supported me and believed in the dream to win with me.
Yeah.
What's the point otherwise? It's fun to do it with other people.
Yeah.
That's why your wedding looks so fun. It's like, what's the point of all this success if you're not sharing it with the people you love, you know?
Yeah.
I really do feel that way. And I think I don't like how much I think about it though, but then maybe I do. I don't actually know the answer to it.
We've talked about your highs. Do you have like a big founder money mistake that you're like, oh man, if I could go back, I'd undo it?
This is another thing I haven't said. I'm such a freaking open book. I wonder if my president and my cousin are going to be like, you really didn't need to share that. There were, when I was raising our seed round, or maybe it was Series A, I think it happened during both. I had a term sheet given and pulled. Yet I know you get this. It's
Explain for everybody what that means.
yeah. So when you're going out for fundraising, the way it kind of works, I mean, it just depends, right? I remember somebody was like, people ask me all the time, are you happy with the investors you went with? I was like, it's funny that you think I had like a pool of
choice,
options
yeah.
of humans. I definitely had more than I think a lot of women experience, which I'm grateful for. And it took years to make happen, just to be clear. But it's not like there was a whole, you know, a Rolodex of people just saying, here's the $10 million check. Like, no. But when you raise, the way it works is you pitch a ton of people. Most people say no. But at the end of the day, you have like a period of time where you try to get as many term sheets as possible, because then you can kind of put them against each other and say, okay, well, get a higher valuation, or just negotiating terms. You have more leverage with the more term sheets that you receive.
Yep.
We got a term sheet in and we went with that one when we actually did have another option too. And during their diligence, they pulled out. And now I swear, another reason I love these founder chats, I tell everyone who that fund was, because that experience.
You haters.
Yeah.
Deepica's going to tell me who you are after the cameras turn off.
I am. And that's the tricky part. It's like, I would love to say it right now on this show, but I still might need to raise capital again one day. And I don't want other investors to be like, oh, she was, you know, they could spin it as she was bitter. And it's like, no, actually, it was just not good practice. And it slowed down my business 6 months because we were counting on that money to hire a certain role.
Yeah.
And then once that role is hired, it takes 6 months to a year for those senior roles to actually get comfortable in their role.
The ramp period.
Everything slows down when something like that happens.
Yeah.
Also, like, there's a lot of people who could just run out of cash. Like, luckily that wasn't our situation, but a lot of businesses could.
Yeah.
That's
Thank
like
God you can make payroll.
Totally. And I have several friends who have been scared about making payroll, you know? It's sometimes, again, the internet makes things look like, I think sometimes people think we're bigger than we are. And then vice versa. I think other people don't realize how big we are.
Yeah.
It's like a weird constant thing. But yeah, I don't know if that was a mistake or a major lesson learned. Like, that was wild going through that.
Yeah.
And their diligence process was really, really embarrassing for them, honestly. They said that they did a focus group of 10 people, and of those 10 people, they said that they didn't relate to the brand or see themselves represented. And I was like, well, yeah, the whole reason is that we need to raise capital to grow the audience from just brown girl brand to like a larger brand. And they didn't pull.
Also, a sample size of 10.
That's what I really meant to say, yeah. Is
Like
silly.
anybody who's taken basic high school statistics knows 10 people is not representative of Earth.
It was really, really painful and really scary. But, you know, I got through it. And I've now raised $15 million and we're thriving. So
Yes.
here we are.
I love that.
Yeah, it's cool. I also think the valuation game is really hard. People get really caught up in, oh, well, this person got this valuation. Why aren't I getting it? I'm actually
Like vanity metrics?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
People want to sound big and rich and expensive.
For sure. And again, I think now, I guess I feel more comfortable saying these numbers out loud because I'm in a more secure place at this point. Like I didn't do podcasts for a whole year because A, I wanted to get re-inspired by my own business. B, I was more sad than happy, so I didn't want to like go on camera.
And be like sad, like Dumbo energy.
Or pretend to be something.
Eeyore energy.
Eeyore energy for sure. Or pretend and fake like I'm good when like the business was like really hard to build. But also 3, like I wanted to get re-inspired. I wanted to have a new story to tell. And I think 2 years ago, the story is really different from where it is now. I'm so secure with our team. We have an amazing leadership team, like VPs and above. Like, that's a really big deal for brands to hire those. Hiring strong talent is really tough. And I feel like we have great, great talent, which means that these people are choosing to leave other really big deal beauty brands to come work at Live Tinted. Again, another thing I do not take lightly, and it weighs heavy on my heart and why we have to win.
Yeah, I love that. What do you see for Live Tinted in the next 5 to 10 years?
Global, baby. Yeah. Like, I want to be, right now we have 6 feet in 50 Ulta doors. By the end of year, we're going to be in 100, and then it's just going to keep going. And I just think it's so cool to think that growing up without a brand founded by someone who looks like me, with models with someone who looks like me, products made for someone who looks like me, to be global and everywhere is just the dream. I don't know. I always think about, do you care about leaving a legacy?
Oh, absolutely.
You think about
I'm
that?
an egomaniac. I'm an egomaniac, without a doubt.
You're like, I need a statue.
Literally. Like, there's going to be a building on my alma mater's campus that is like the Vivian II library of where you pretend to study. Because I didn't do any of that. But,
Yeah, I think about it, and I really think I want Live Tinted to be a legacy brand. Like, I want it to outlive me. I want my kids' to like pick it up and say, Grandma made this happen. And for me, global is just it. I mean, Live Tinted is all about representing tints all over the world. I want skin tones and representation from all different parts of all the continents to have Live Tinted. Like, it'd be so cool to go into an airport in Dubai and see Live Tinted. That would be wild.
That would be
It'll
really,
happen.
really cool. I love that. That's good energy that you're putting out into the world. And for the final little segment of our show, I want to take a quick second. Aside from hiring models for your brand, you recently had a little modeling stint. And I can't believe you did this, by the way, because you were giving out free feet pics left, right, and center. That is not your
charge
Rich
more
BF.
for that.
Yeah, that is not your Rich BFF approved. But you actually decided to create a shoe line with Naturalizer.
Yeah.
And tell me why that was important to you. Like, because you've always wanted to be in beauty. Did you always want to be in fashion too?
I think for me, as much as I can use myself as a vehicle to get more brands to care about inclusivity, I want to do it. And when a 100-year-old brand like Naturalizer approaches you and says, we want to create a shoe line that represents and celebrates skin tones. And they made the deepest shade of the shoe 1, and the medium shade 2, and the lightest shade 3. Those little things matter to me. More eyeballs caring about the conversation of inclusivity matters to me. So if I can do it in fashion, sports, consumer goods, across the board, I think that's the reason I still do the influencer stuff.
Yeah.
There was a period of time where I was like, I'm the founder of Live Tinted. I don't need anything else. And I stopped doing influencer stuff. I stopped posting on social regularly. And then I realized it's a missed opportunity because I can be more than one thing, especially now that I have a team in place and I have a president in place and everyone reports into her now, so I can spend more time doing cool things like partnering with the Naturalizers of the world. Also, it's free advertisement for Live Tinted.
That's right, baby.
Let's be real. Like, all these partnerships I do, I was in like a Dell commercial that aired during the World Series that said, founder of Live Tinted. Like, I will use Dell money to leverage my brand. And it's dope that these big companies are putting small business owners in their campaigns. My dream is that like Kim Kardashian will do a Skims campaign for like International Women's Day and have a bunch of female founders on billboards on Skims dime. And then I'm one of them. Just putting that in the universe because I'm a witch and I'm manifesting it.
I love big witchy energy. And I guess for my final question is, as a business owner, as someone who has an influencer business, an actual beauty brand, what are you doing? What steps are you taking in both your business and your personal life to secure your financial future?
I just got a wealth manager, financial advisor, whatever it's called. It was a really hard decision for me because, you give them a percent of what they manage, a percentage of it. But the reason I did it was I wanted to break this cycle in my head. I've had my dad helping manage my money my whole life, and he recently said to me, you need to get married soon because I'm not always going to be here and you need someone to be able to do this for you.
What?
And I my stomach was boiling, and I was like, in what world do you think like I wouldn't have a prenup? That I would trust the man to like manage my money for me. But I realized I had to empower myself to understand my own finances. I mean, it's ridiculous. I'm 35 years old and I'm literally saying out loud that like, I just need people who trust me in all parts of my life. So my dad has been helping me on this side. And quite honestly, I've just been so busy building that I haven't been paying attention to any of this stuff. Because in my brain, I'm like, Live Tinted will one day be so big and that'll be what takes care of me and my kids. And then for now, I'm just trying to survive and just live. But the best decision I made, and by the way, like papers signed like 2 weeks ago, I asked a bunch of female founder friends who they use post-exit.
Yeah.
And Nancy Twine from Briogeo gave me an intro, Susan Yara Naturium, like all these badass women, right? Like, again, I have to shout that out because we're so lucky to be able to text and have that kind of a relationship to say, hey, I really trust this person to manage my money. And so I met with a bunch of them. I made a decision and I was like, you know what? I'll give you a small chunk because I don't have the big money right now. But it's the right time to learn. So when I do have the big money, I know who to go with and who to trust to do that for me.
And how to be really, really responsible with it.
That's the biggest part. I don't want to depend on anybody else. I want a person that is a paid person, like an employee on Team Deepica, not Team Live Tinted, but Team Deepica. I'm currently building out my personal team, who's my lawyer. Like I'm looking into buying a house. I'm like mortgage, loans, lender, all the things.
We can talk all about that after.
Girl, it is, oh my God, adulting is crazy.
It is.
It's so crazy. So yeah, I mean, I've listened to every advice you give. I'm like, oh dang, I was supposed to do this. Like I have been so in build mode and not this side, but it's silly to not do both. So I forget the question, but the point is I got for my personal life and my business, I guess I'm just focused on it for the first time.
Yeah.
I have to think about long term and be really smart and not depend on anyone.
Mm-hmm. We're trying to go far, not just fast.
That.
Okay. Thank you so much for being so vulnerable and transparent. I have absolutely loved having you on. But last question is, where can our listeners find you online, but also where can they get Live Tinted products? Can we have a discount code?
Oh, yes. Yes. Insert discount code here. I don't know what it is. Can you put it in like the link if I say?
We'll put a discount code in the show notes.
Hell yeah.
But it's going to be something really cool like Vivian is the best.
Yes, exactly. Perfect. Yes. You absolutely will get a discount code. You can get Live Tinted at every Ulta Beauty, Sephora Canada, and livetinted.com. Please support of all skin tones. You all can use Live Tinted. That is my biggest takeaway to your audience. And you can follow me, Deepica, on all social.
Love it. Thanks for being
here.
Love you.
Thank you for having me.
Love you.
I'd like to thank my partners at Marshalls for sponsoring this episode of Networth and Chill. Being responsible with your finances means taking care of future you. And thankfully, while you're looking out for the you of tomorrow, Marshalls is looking out for the you of today. They've got the latest on-trend and high-quality fashion, beauty, and home decor at a fraction of retail prices. So whether you're starting a new job, taking some overdue PTO, or just sitting at home planning your next move, Marshalls will make sure you look good doing it. Shop in-store or online to get the good stuff today. Thanks for tuning into this week's episode of Networth and Chill, part of the Vox Media Podcast Network. If you like the episode, make sure to leave a rating and review and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Got a burning financial question that you want covered in a future episode? Write to us via podcast@yourrichbff.com. Follow Networth and Chill Pod on Instagram to stay up to date on all podcast-related news. And you can follow me at YourRichBFF for even more financial know-how. See you next week. Bye!